Okay, so let's continue with our, well, it's the second part of the product life cycle, right? That we started actually last week. I was a little bit ahead because I posted three lessons. So we started with the first part of the product life cycle in lesson 11, which has been up now, like I say, for a week. And now we're going to continue with lecture 12, lesson 12, which takes us through the second or the two last phases, right, of stages within the product life cycle. This is for H Radio 123 part timers. Name is Chris. Content creation part 6 of 8. Cullinan and Nash's Next Level Radio. The within the chapter, the references chapter 3.5, informative and entertaining content, page 104 to 106. Please excuse, I have a scratchy throat, so I'm going to be constantly drinking some water. I wasn't be coughing like now. There we go. There's some water there. All right. So just a little bit of patience with that. Okay. Not a long lesson because again, it's just a continuation, just to close it up as well. As to what the product life cycle is all about. In previous lessons, so I think about 3, maybe 4 lessons ago, I actually also posted up the video. It's supposed to suck at first, where Tracy Johnson does take you through the entire life cycle. It's a 47-minute video, which you can go and watch. Just to kind of reference. I did also watch pretty much, I did include it in one of those lessons, in the previous lessons, but it is up as well as an independent video. Okay, so we looked at introduction and growth in the past lesson. We're going to look at maturity and decline, and then close it up from there. There won't be any practical for this particular lesson. We'll actually save that for the lesson afterwards when we move into gifts and show development. Right, so this is going to be, like I say, theory based, and then so quite a short lesson in comparison to the next little couple that'll include practicals. Okay, anyway, this product to service, the product to service life cycle, as we know so far, is again, it's an application to business, right? To business products and services, right? Um, Whereas it is also, like I say, it is 3 widely accepted assumptions, right? Give me a second here. All right, sorry, I just had to take a student call. All right, so we're back there. Okay, so following obviously 3 widely accepted assumptions. One, the first thing is that products have a limited life cycle. Again, kind of a recap on from the previous lesson, because I'm sure we did mention this, right? Yeah, any product or service has a limited life cycle. Nothing can last forever. We're not all Coca-Cola, right? That has been around for over, man, I think it's been over 100 years now. That's crazy. Okay, other products just have they just have like a lifespan, and they just end at some other point, right? Definitely, stations do not last forever. Definitely, shows and presenters do not last forever, and so it applies to our, obviously, like our case study over here in terms of shows. The success of sales of that particular product go through these 4 stages where the show will also grow, and obviously it'll ebb and flow, right? And these all offer different challenges and opportunities at different times. So we want to make sure that at any one phase, again, or stage, we're optimizing that particular situation, wherever that particular show is currently at, and making sure that we're not falling, right? Let's say losing to these, or the battle to these challenges, rather like optimizing the opportunities there. Anyway, in every phase, the business has to work on different stages to ensure the success of the product, as I've just said there. So obviously, again, radio is no different. It still is a product. It's a service that is provided to a consumer, who's the listener. Right, and then we go through obviously the 4 stages within a particular radio show. Right, each require different strategies and techniques to navigate through. So again, we pick up from where we left off, which was just before the maturity phase, the growth phase, and we look at, let's say, the maturity phase right now. In the maturity phase, you can see in terms of the picture, just to like look back, it's obviously when you are at the height. So the height of the show itself, we've gone through that kind of like blind date situation, where we're trying to get to know the listener. They're also getting used to us. We have limited kind of like limited control, I would say. And also we don't want to push the boundaries here because again, we want people to get used to us and get obviously acquainted and accept us basically with into their lives and into their lifestyle. And the growth, obviously, we said there that we started to extend a little bit in terms of our opinion and including a little bit of heart in there, kind of dialing it down in terms of station and promotion. In terms of the percentage, so you might remember that little graph. You can see the pie chart is coming up for the maturity phase, and now we're obviously here in the prime. So you can almost picture um, uh, any young person. So within their 30s, I suppose you're in your prime. People in their 40s, like myself, will argue. Not myself, though. I was just as a sidebar. But the people in their 40s will say no, they are in their prime, and then 50s will say that I believe genuinely you're in your prime in your 30s, 35 and onwards, right? 35 and maybe early 40s, 41, 42, right? Anyway, so sidebar. Let's leave that reference to the one side. When a show enters, okay, so excuse me, let me start here. In the maturity phase, the radio show has reached a point where new growth is generally small and the base listenership, okay, who tune in regularly is robust and it's valuable, right? So again, we got that really nice little club there. We've got a large group of people that are dedicated to the show that want to include it, like I said, as part of their lifestyle. And they're very happy with the product because they wouldn't have been with us throughout the introductory and the growth phase to be with us in the maturity phase. They weren't happy, right? So we really optimized those two previous phases, and now we're optimizing this. So when a show enters this particular phase, it usually means it has been successful so far in building that extensive audience base. So, as I just mentioned there, and the phases where advertisers really get the best bang for their buck, because again, very influential. I'm saying the presents are very influential. The product is obviously liked and it's trusted. So, the thing is, if you're going to advertise, promote, or again activate on that particular show, you'll be like, okay, great. It comes past part and parcel with the quality and the trust, whatever it is for the radio show itself. We're talking about the brand with the client or the product, whatever it is that you're advertising in. So the bang for the buck in terms of return on investment, which we never actually ever promise a client, but we know that the client will get return on investment, people, more clients, more purchases, whatever it is, more traffic. Well, the podcasts get into the top 10 of most downloaded podcasts weekly, right? So obviously, a station has that clout because it has some massive reach. It is a brand. And so the thing is, you'll find that a lot of the individual independent podcasts that are generated or produced by that station as well will also find it, like you say. If you go to Spotify, you go to Apple, you'll see a lot of them charting quite regularly, right, across this country here, if we're looking at South Africa specifically, right? So in this phase, the content offering shifts away from material about the station as a whole to material about the show and its character, their personal opinions, the heart of the show, and its emotive value. So here we're getting highly opinionated, but also again respected presenters. The value that the listener considers in their lives is of high quality, and it's kind of like quote unquote cherished, right? And again, trusted. It's inclusive, so it's invited into their lives quite comfortably through the previous two phases, but now it's just part of their lifestyle, right? If we look at the percentage of the breakup for this, we can see that station and promos now go to 15%. And again, this is now considering the links itself, not necessarily. So this is out of my own so I want to, out of my own initiative, I'm going to include station and promotion. So not part and parcel of, like obviously the show is really, like it's really successful. We're going to have a lot of advertising, a lot of obviously promotions being incorporated into the show. So again, just note that this is independent of that um, particular element, right? Okay, yeah, that's the best way to put it, right? Okay, features and benchmarks here at 25%, lifestyle and relationship 25%, personal observation massive there 25%, and heart. So that really really giving your right your personal investment, right, tugging at quote unquote heartstrings. We'll see obviously the differentiation in just a moment, as we have in the previous lessons as well. Just quickly zoom a little bit up here so you can see a little bit more clearly. So from your textbook, you'll see the again in chapter 3, you'll see that all these tables are included there. So let's again we can recap from what we saw in the previous lesson, station and promotion. What is the content there? Information about what is happening on the stations across promotion, right, in your city, your country, and the world, and what is happening on your show, right? So 15% of the time, we'll go look at the links, obviously the link structure or the breakdown in the next slide. Features and benchmarks have entertaining, engaging, relevant, and relatable features or benchmark moments where listeners play along, such as games, right? So, again, in the next lesson, we'll learn about how to maybe think about gaming or whatever it is. So, quote unquote, what happens under the umbrella of gaming, so we can build some features for our show. But yes, ideally, really benchmarks again, things that are happening at the same time on every show, or let's say week to week, whatever it may be, 25% of the time. Relationship content. So anything to do with, again, family, friends, work relationships, relationships with yourself, relationships with a divinity, whatever it may be, you and the world. Include relatable relationship discussions or stories, and lifestyle content include stories or discussions about common lifestyle, again, like sporting, shopping, recreation, health, again, wealth, that type of thing, everything that falls under those umbrellas. 25% of the time for the total of those two there. And personal observations, again, also 25% of the time, include your own observations, part and parcel alongside all the content that you do create. So again, it isn't as we come across, as we have come across before. Like you see, it says most four links, two links, two links. But again, it's a combination of, and I'm going to go back now in just a moment. I'm not finished, obviously, with that slide, but it's a combination. You want to include personal observation as part of that relationship content, those benchmark features, and the lifestyle, for example. And the heart might actually be necessary in particularly maybe you have a quite a serious feature. I'm saying so. It's again, like I say, a mental health or family feature, whatever it may be, a religious feature. You want to also bring in this heart, whatever it may be, right? But okay, anyway, so heart includes emotional, personal experiences and opinion, as you can see, to make a holistic link a content piece, we will always include emotional or personal experience, right, and opinion and observation to make that, again, holistic, as I say, right? 25% for that, and then 10% of the time. And the link allocation, we're looking at two links, rotate between one or and two links per show, right? Um, four links for benchmark features, four links in total for either relationship, lifestyle, and or, right? Four links for personal observation, two links rotate between one and two links per show, again, heart. Again, for me, a better approach is to use um, a combination. So combine them in between, right? Total percentages, working on the percentages more than, let's say, the separation of the links itself. Okay. Once again, there's a little bit of a picture for the maturity phase, just to represent, we had it over here, literally just a repeat there. Okay, what elements make up the show clock? Right, so the show clock is made up of spots, so ads and promotions, billboards, live reads, so spot breaks, okay? Uh, so think of again that clock that we're going to construct, right? And again, what's it going to include? So spot breaks, any one of these constitute as advertising. Okay. What's a billboard? A billboard is something that we play out, let's say just before, like let's say a traffic or a sports or a news bulletin. So it's something that this news bulletin is brought to you by Outsurance. Outsurance, quickly. Like it's short and sweet, 10 to 15 seconds, whatever it is. It's a billboard before an actual element, right? And then we'll do like a live read or a full advert, like a 30-second advert, just after that particular element is uh, executed or it's completed, finished, right? Anyway, links, features, callouts, callers, guest interviews, generic links, administration links, weather, traffic, news, and sport all form part of what completes or constitutes as a link. Obviously, our music sweeps, right? That will be obviously be part of that particular hour. Imaging, so identifying the station, the IDs, the stings, the jingles, etc. Imaging, right? So it says you're listening to BMH Radio, whatever it is, BMH Radio. What do I say? What was the other one? Sia Jaiba, right? We're making some taglines and strap lines for the third years, right? Okay, imaging, right? So it's that produced identity of the station between that you hear between songs, right? Um, all right, an underlying understanding of where the show is going and how it will translate effectively on air, right? Your approach to balancing out those different elements, right, that are going to make up that clock, that hour, or those 2 or those 3 hours individually, obviously independently, because each clock is different from the next, and approaching that strategically so that you can make them spend more time on your station, right? Listening longer, one strategically places each of these existing concepts logically into the hot clock to plan each hour. Right. Okay. So the maturity phase elements, a few things to be considered by the station and the program when creating the clock. Important because the clocks will differ. The time of day or the day part, right? We'll call it day part. So if it's is it breakfast, so the clock's going to be super busy. Again, heavy advertising, promotions, etc., whatever it may be. Or is it, let's say, at night on weekends, right, where it's going to be more music, less links, shorter links, less serious content as well? We're going to read the room, right? So, who is the listener at that particular time of day, right? And also that day in the week, right? That's very important to decide how we're going to build that particular clock and put it together. What is the culture or the brief of the show? So you're going to set a little bit of that atmosphere, right? And people are going to know this is this type of show. It's a positive show, or it's a informative show. It's I don't know, empowering or whatever it is, or it's light, it's entertaining. It can be also a hybrid. Obviously, we don't want to be like one trick ponies. It can be a bit of a hybrid of. So this is an invite. This is obviously an inviting space for this type of person, right? That has this type of mindset or approach to life, or is leading this particular lifestyle, right? And doing or being in certain places in certain parts of the day, whatever it is, like work, traffic, at home, studying, that type of thing, right? So we'll change the culture of that particular of show to show to show based on the listener lifestyle, right? So where are we in the life cycle of the show, right? So we're also defining the clock based on, as we said before, the different the introductory and the growth phases going to obviously impact the structure of that particular show clock, right? Now, what are you trying to achieve? So, what's your end game here in that show? Like, and it's a very straightforward question, maybe a little bit confusing to answer. So, what do you want to do today? Do you want to make sure that, let's say, you get like stories of independent women out for Women's Day, right? Do you want to, let's go on, let's say moms, or like I say, let's go with moms. So having like a bit of a moms meet up. I don't know, for whatever reason. I don't know why you would get so like moms that don't know each other to meet up. But perhaps maybe we can get like a mom meetup and do something around that. But obviously, it's got to land, right? So these ideas need to land. Are we going to interview the president today? Post obviously the elections and obviously the results, right? To get a bit of a like an in-depth interview, like an expose. What are we trying to do? And do so we're obviously going to set out to achieve those goals, but then do we actually do them, right? So do we want to inform that listener? Do we want to make a game? Do we want to make sure that a game or a promotion competition runs really great, like to its best, like its highest level? What did you want to do? And then did you actually go out, create obviously the prep according to the clock that you do have, and then be like, okay, like I did a good job. Right. So, with the maturity phase elements, now that you have answered those particular questions, we can start designing that particular clock for a show. The clock is a real time visualization of what needs to happen in that hour. So, first, you place your time sensitive elements. So, your elements that have to go out at a specific time, like news, sports, adverts, and all benchmark features, happen first. Um, and then obviously all the other elements in between. These are usually dictated by the programming department. These ones here, these elements that can't be actually debated, right, as to where they go in the clock itself. We'll go look at a video now in terms of putting a hot clock together, and then we'll also cover it extensively in upcoming lessons. I can't just assume that you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. So time sensitive elements, as you can see, we're going to get to some of that in just a moment. So time sensitive elements, top of the hour news. And again, this is debatable from station to station. They can decide how long they would like their news to be, maybe 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, three, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, 6 minutes, up to, I'm saying up to 6 minutes in talk radio. News headlines will happen at the bottom of the hour. So at half past, right? The bottom and the top of the hour. At the top of that clock and at the bottom of that clock. So just so you understand what that actually is. This is the top, that is the bottom. Top of the hour, bottom of the hour. Right. Okay. Bottom of the hour will be a full sports bulletin. Again, debatable, 90 seconds to maybe 3 minutes, right? At the top of the hour, so just after the news, the full news bulletin, we'll have sports headlines. Also accompany that with traffic, right? And then weather, as well as maybe financial indicators will be included there. So top and the bottom of the hour, we could do some traffic updates throughout the show at the 10 past, 20 past, 22 and 10 to in like high traffic hours. So like the breakfast, the drives, etc., would make sense if we update them continuously with very short traffic updates. But weather again is contextual. So, for example, as we just talk about weather, why not, right? Make it worth listening. So. You can tell us what your city is currently at, the temperatures are. If it's in the morning, when they tell them obviously what the highs are, what they can expect. If there is any like drastic weather, we want to warn them. If there is flood, there are dangers of floods, or if there's strong winds around the coast, whatever it may be. You're going to expect some severe hailstorms, want to be a little bit more, like I say, just a little bit more impactful, like useful at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, so end of the day in that's just a phrase, and then at the actual literal at the end of the day, you want to be able to tell them, listen, yeah, like what is the temperature looking like in the morning? So you'll hear that at a 7 o'clock bulletin, 6 o'clock bulletin, that will reference obviously what the highs are or the lows maybe of the early morning, what you can expect when you wake up, and kind of again preparing you, make it conversational with when it comes to weather, when it comes to traffic as well, conversational. Tell us what's happening. Tell us alternative routes, tell us where we're going to, how long we're going to be stuck in that particular gridlock or whatever it is, and be a little bit more, like I say, just a little bit more engaging with the traffic. Right? Tell us more. because tell us more than what the GPS can give us. Spot breaks can vary. So in formatted radio, normally for normal show at half past at 22 the hour, and then at 5 to the hour. Whereas in unformatted radio, 22 minutes past, 38 minutes past, 52 minutes past, and again, just depending on that the weight of that particular spot break. It's not always 180 seconds, right? But anything longer than that is too long. I mean, but we do have 4 minute spot breaks sometimes, and like I say, in heavy advertising traffic seasons, like for example September, always very high, maybe 3.5, 4 minutes sometimes. I've even seen 5 minute um, spot breaks, which are really like really irritating to listeners. But anyway, we a 3 minutes is a good average. Shouldn't actually be longer than the average time of a song because I mean, what are you doing anyway, right? So when you're looking at the clock, you'll start with again like the shape of a clock right there, and you'll start with the quarterlies. You'll do that. So at 00, right? At 15 minutes, at half past or 30 minutes past. So I don't want you to reference a particular time of day. You'll look at the clock itself. I'm saying the times that pass and this will be quarter two, right? That doesn't mean we have to do something at those particular quarter hours. We're showing yes that people listen in quarterlies, right? So they could come from here to maybe here. They could come from this way to that way. They could come from this way to that way, and this way to maybe this one over here, right? People normally come in. They don't just stay for 15 minutes, but they could come in at any time. And we want to be able to make sure that we construct this clock to make them listen throughout the quarter hour, right? The quarter that they're coming in for. Go to the next quarter, go to the next quarter, keep them engaged for as long as they actually are available for. So we can't stop them from going into the office, going in for a meeting, going into their house, going for a shower, that type of stuff that maybe the radio for a shower you could leave the radio on anyway, but going to the gym, going to a restaurant, visiting someone where you don't want interruptions. Anyway, or switching on the TV. We can't make them just listen, even though the radio station can be great, like consistently in obviously a utopian vision, but it like we're gonna just keep them there as long as we can. Anyway, all right. So very basic version of the clock right here. I'm not going to expect you to do much more right now with it. I'm saying in terms of drawing. But you'll see that in the next lesson, we are going to start breaking down some elements that possibly could be worked into different hours in a show, and it will come together. So don't worry. Okay, so the decline phase, right? So this is the phase that every radio presenter dreads. They know it's going to come. It's the end of the show, like at the end of their journey things need to end some or other time. They can last for years, man. We can look at shows that have been on the same, I'm saying, presenters on the same slot, same team for up to 10 years. But after, like I'm just saying to you, it's questionable, right? People are going to get tired of you, no matter how great you are. They're going to get tired of you if you haven't been able to attract new audiences, fresh audiences that have grown into your demographic, then you're most certainly going to be cancelled, right? The numbers and ratings are going to genuinely start to fall. We do try and obviously spruce this, spice it up, right, by maybe changing parts of the team. Uh, Definitely continuously. I mean, this doesn't go. We don't have to get to the decline phase to make sure that the show grows and it evolves right throughout time. When the show begins to reach this phase, it's a great idea to reset the show, as I said, with maybe new people, new voices. But again, it's going to get exhausting. Or um, a really good example is the Jacaranda team. Like Martin Bester has been on that show forever, and it's too long. He's been on and off breakfast for I think over 2 decades, man. It's ah, he might be a great presenter, sure, but it feels old because it is old. Anyway, Right. And he does constantly win like best. I don't know. I think in his breakfast show, constantly. Right, but the show's great. But I nearly keeps winning the presenter one. Sidebar. Anyway, like you can hear my voice going up. It's just been so it's been so long. He really needs to move on, right? And say, listen, like it's time now. It's just time. Anyway, so definitely that show is on the decline phase. I will not be. I will stand by saying that like he will be removed sooner than later over the next maybe 3 years. Otherwise, Jack Ryan really doesn't know what they're doing. Anyway, every show has an expiry date, and if your show is not a new show, and you don't know what phase you are in, you could use a more hierarchy of content. So this divides content into, again, those particular three levels, okay, that we can talk about, right? All right, but anyway, so I'm going to actually just, so this for the moment, I'm just going to take that off because the focus of attention, I want to take it off here, and we'll talk about those different levels. So again, I'm just going to just sitting here, saying just a lot. Uh, which was this on? Three. Oh, okay. Let me just because that's in chapter four. The clock is in chapter four. So 104, 106. Right. Okay, 10. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the sorry, I just want to just make sure before I say anything, right? Yeah, so that was definitely I should have taken that out. I just wanted to double check, man. Just so while you're still on the video, right? Ah, anyway, right. Okay. So what will be covered in the next lesson will be from 105, 106, 107, right? Which actually closes up the chapter. And then the activity is on page 109. With then we can start looking at those. Let's leave it for the next lesson. Okay, all right, okay. I'm gonna stop it over there. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you in the next lesson.